Have you ever been trying to write a riff and you just can't come up with anything interesting or fun to play? Or maybe you've been writing a few riffs and you go to play them back the next day, but they just sound kind of dull or boring. My name is Mitch, and today I'm going to show you guys some easy tips that you can implement into your riff writing right away to make your riff sound more interesting and stand out from the crowd. Whether you're a beginner looking to write your first riffs or an advanced player looking for an extra edge, you've come to the right video. Make sure you stick around to the end because no matter what level player you are, I guarantee you'll be able to implement some of these techniques to spice up your riffs. First thing you can do to instantly spice up your riffs and stop them from sounding so generic is not using just regular power chords all the time. If you're playing metal, a lot of the times you're going to want to use power chords to keep it tight so you don't get that mess going on with all the distortion or gain that you have. But that doesn't mean your chords have to be boring. We can take a simple power chord, 5th fret on the A string, and we can turn that into an inverted power chord to make it sound a bit heavier. All you have to do to make an inverted power chord is take your index finger and move it up one string. So we have a little mini bar. So we're on 5 on the E, 5 on the A, and 7 on the D. A simple riff with regular power chords may sound like this. Changing that to inverted power chords will make it sound a bit heavier. If you're using a 3-string power chord, like 5 on the E, 7 on the A, 7 on the D, try leaving out the 5th, which would be the middle on the A string, and just playing the E string and the D string. So you would mute that A string. Those are just an octave. And they're used a lot in death metal and a few different styles. When used sparingly, they can sound a bit more interesting than just using power chords all the time. Another thing you can do is, instead of just your power chord, which is a perfect 5th interval, try using different intervals, still just 2 notes, but you could do a minor or a major third. To do a minor third, you'll see Megadeth do this a lot. Instead of just your power chord, say for example on 5 and 7, we would have 5 on the E and 4 on the A. It sounds a bit more dissonant than your standard power chord. You can use those to make some really cool riffs as well. Another one you can add is the minor third interval, where you would just move down again, so we'd have 5 on the E and 3 on the A. Try taking these different intervals and using them in place of your standard power chords to make your riffs sound a bit more interesting. The second thing you can do to spice up your riffs is focusing on different rhythmic patterns. So a lot of times we naturally want to go for the downbeat and emphasize those beats. But if you emphasize different beats, it'll make your riffs grab people's attention and have them listen in to see what's going on. To implement this into your playing, you can use a metronome and try playing on the offbeat when the metronome is not clicking. Emphasizing unexpected beats will help keep the listener interested. The third thing you want to do is don't forget about your guitar techniques like hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, pinch harmonics. They're not all just for soloing. Implementing them into your riffs will give your riffs that extra spice they need to stand out and have more of an impact. For example, even if you're just going in between simple chords or different dyads, you can hammer into them. Black Sabbath, Metallica, bands like that, they use these techniques all the time. Instead of just playing a regular power chord, start off with just the 5 on E and 5 on A and hammer into that 7. That'll make it a little more interesting. Or you could, if you want to land on this chord, slide into it. Adding different techniques like that will make it sound a lot more fun. If you're having a dry spell with riffs and you just can't seem to come up with anything interesting, think of some of your favorite riffs, what they have going on, and how you can implement those techniques into your playing. For example, one thing that I like to do a lot is take a riff that I really like and totally change it to make it your own. If we take a riff I really like Creeping Death by Metallica, take that riff, it has some interesting techniques. 2 ways I like to go about turning a riff on its head and making it into your own riff. We can take the rhythm from Creeping Death and move it somewhere else, play it totally differently, but have that rhythm going in your head. I'll show you what I mean. So we'll take Creeping Death. So we took Creeping Death, we took the rhythm but moved it to a completely different place on the guitar and played totally different chords and totally different notes and turned it into our own riff. All you have to do is take simple ideas from certain riffs, like a rhythmic pattern or maybe a note or key phrase that you like, change it up a bit and turning it into your own. Music is all about evolution. So learn from your inspirations, learn from the music you like, get inspired by them, create something unique to yourself derived from those who inspire you. Another thing we can do is with Creeping Death, if we like that spot there, we like that key, we like what's going on there, take those same notes, totally change them up. So we can take Creeping Death again, but maybe turn it into something akin to a doom metal song. I basically just took the notes from Creeping Death there, totally changed the rhythm, and made it into my own riff. If you guys have any favorite riffs that you want to try to draw inspiration from and evolve into your own style, let me know what they are in the comments below. The next thing you can do to make your riffs more interesting is create variations. So riffs, you want them to be repetitive, you want them to be catchy, but you don't want them to be too boring. What we can do is alternate the riff. So we have an A version and a B version. Then you can go back and forth and keep that interesting. A perfect example of that is No Remorse by Metallica. We have the A part, and then we have the B part. Having those two variations go back and forth keep things interesting. So you can implement that into your own riffs by having a different ending. What I like to do oftentimes is have one variation that's relatively tame, relatively boring. We could have an A version with a simple power chord slide, and then a B version with some tremolo picked notes. So we have contrast there, where one is a little bit more straightforward, maybe a little boring, and then we add something the second time around to make it more interesting. If any of these tips have been helpful for you guys so far, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more content. With your riffs, you don't want to overcomplicate them. You want to make sure they're catchy enough for the listener to grab onto. But if you're writing a full song, don't be afraid to put some boring riffs in there. Just because the guitar riff may be boring at the time doesn't mean the entire song is going to be boring. A lot of times, if you listen to songs that you really like and you're listening to the guitar solo, listen to the riff underneath. Oftentimes, barely anything is going to be going on during that riff. They're just going to have some simple power chords, maybe descending or ascending, doing a different chord progression, just keeping that flow throughout the guitar solo so the soloist has something to play over top of. Sometimes a simple chord progression is all you need for a certain section of the song. You want the leads to be able to stand out. If you have a complicated riff going underneath the lead guitar, it's going to make everything messy. Another thing that can help make your riffs more interesting is learning a little bit about music theory. If you guys don't know a lot of music theory, don't worry, it's not as hard as it sounds. You can look up certain modes or scales and figure out what notes to play, maybe just a little sliver of them, and use the ideas from those modes to make things sound more interesting. You'd be surprised how learning a little bit of music theory can help you get out of a creative rut and come up with some new fun ideas. So for our last technique here, don't be afraid to implement chromaticism into your riffs. For you, those of you who don't know what chromaticism is, all it is basically implementing notes that are right next to each other. The chromatic scale contains every note that exists in our Western music. So it kind of takes all the music theory rules and chucks them out the window. If you're heavy into music theory, sometimes it can get a little overwhelming. Sometimes it can be fun just to take it, chuck it out the window, and try some chromatic notes. There's a lot of really great chromatic riffs out there. If you're looking to play metal, they can really help you get that extra evil or spooky feel that you're looking for. A lot of great bands such as Slayer like to use chromaticism to give that vibe that they're looking for. For example, Raining Blood uses a lot of chromatic notes right next to each other to give it that evil feel to it. One more tip is learn about different intervals and how they work. If you're writing a lot of metal riffs, some intervals that are going to sound really cool are the minor second interval, which is just one fret apart, and the minor third interval, which is 3 frets apart. So we'd be going from 7 to 10. Those intervals are going to sound really great for any metal songs. That minor third interval is used a lot. Cannibal Corpse, Hammer Smash Face. So you could take all the concepts that you learned in this video and combine them together to make your own riffs. I highly recommend using your phone or whatever recording device you have on you to record yourself playing your riffs, not necessarily so you have to put it out to the world to see right away, but so you can remember them. I can't tell you how many times I've come up with a riff that I love and the next day I totally forgot how to play it. Definitely make sure you record it. I think recording it is much better than just writing it down on paper because you might not remember how the rhythm goes. If you don't know how to write rhythmic notation and you're just writing tabs, you can go back to the riff and forget totally how to play it. So definitely try to record on your phone if you can, so you can listen back to it later. Anyways, guys, that's all the tips I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you guys are using any of these techniques to write some riffs, and I hope you have a great one.